Hey guys, welcome to the session. And today we are going to discuss about the basic BGP configuration because we already know about the fundamental of the BGP. We know about the why we should use the BGP, right? What is the various attribute of the BGP? We know what is the various messages of the BGP, how basically different state of the BGP, what is the iBGP, what is the eBGP. So these concept already we know because we have already done discussion about the theoretical steps. So today we just have to understand the BGP basic configuration. Means when you have to configure either iBGP, eBGP, what are the basic way to do the configuration? What is the step-by-step approach is going to be happen, right? How basically AS number is going to come in a picture, how we can define the neighbors relationship, how the address family is going to be configured in the BGP, how we can activate the address family, okay, how we can activate the neighborship, how we can advertise the route subnet inside the BGP configuration. So step by step, this basic BGP configuration I'm going to do. So that's why in this topology, I'm just going to use these two routers. And in these two routers, I'm just going to start the building the basic BGP configuration. So in the first state, right, in the first stage, there is a direct BGP neighborship relation is going to be established. Means BGP is going to be established with the IP address that is connected on the interface of the router. This is the one solution. Or might be we can use the loopback IP address to make the BGP relationship. And what is the way to make them communicate? If I'm just going to use the connected subnet, then how I can make them reachable these two loopback address in the BGP. And if I want to make the BGP relation between these two loopback, then how this can be done and what is the prerequisite is going to be required. So the first task to establish the BGP relation between these two devices, okay, on the physical interface IP addresses. So what is the prerequisite? So if you want to establish the BGP between any two devices, any two IP address, the first prerequisite, the address which you are going to make the neighborship between the two devices, that address must be reachable. Means what does means reachable? Means let's suppose I have the A router, I have the B router, I have the IP address 1.1.1.1, 2.2.2.2. If I want to make the relationship of the BGP, I must able to ping from 1 to 2 IP address and from 2 to 1 IP address. This is the prerequisite. If I am not able to do that, I cannot make the BGP relationship. The simple thumb rule is going to be applied here, right? So in this scenario, I'm not going to use this first two loopback to make the BGP relationship. What I'm going to do that, I'm going to make the BGP relationship between these two address. So these two address are going to belong in the same subnet. Means you can see 12.0.0.1, 12.00.2. So they are /30 network. So /30 having a two valid IP address. If you have the very good subnetting information, so only two valid IP address. And by using those valid IP address, I'm going to make the BGP relationship. So how it is going to happen? So let me start the router first. Okay. So I'll just open this router. You can see here. So let me open in the bigger window. So this is the router. And let me open this router as well. Okay. So I hope you're able to see that. So these router are getting boot. Yeah. So let me put no. There is no previous configuration on these two routers. This router is going to boot, and then after we are going to do the remaining configuration. So there is no configuration at all. So first what I have to do, meanwhile this router is getting boot up, I will just assign the IP address between these two interfaces. So gig 0 by 0 and gig 0 by. And before making the BGP connection, I have to make sure these two IP address must be reachable. If any issue in the cable itself and I'm not able to make the ping pong between these two addresses, I'll be not able to do any kind of the BGP relationship. Okay, so let me show you how it is going to be happen. So probably it is booting now. So soon we have some kind of the output. Okay, reconnected. Why? Let me off some devices. I believe there is some kind of the issue. Let me off some devices. Let me connect here. So maximum node we just have already used. So first I'll make the host name change. So I'll make the config t, and host name I'll just make as a host name r2, and for this device I'll also make the host name as a r1. Host name as a r1. So if you see do show IP interface brief, there is no any configuration on this particular two devices. So do show IP interface brief, there is no configuration at all. So the first thing I have to assign the IP address, that 12.0.0.1 on this particular gig 0 by 0 interface. So interface gig 0 by 0, right? IP address 12.0.0.1, subnet mask 30 is equal to 255.255.252 and no shut. Okay, this is done. Similarly, I'll go and assign the two IP address. So I'm already configuration here. I'll go in the interface gig ethernet 0 by 0, and I'll assign the IP address 12.0.0.2 255 sorry 255.255.252 no shut, and that's done. So if you check it here, if I run show IP interface brief, you can see this is the configuration. You can do the right memory configuration as well, and here if you also check that show IP interface brief, you'll get this IP address. So what I told, the first requirement, you must be able to ping the address on which you want to make the BGP relationship. Means your address must be reachable. Any address, whatever you want to make the BGP relationship, that must be reachable, either directly connected or indirectly connected. What is the indirectly connected? Might be the address is 1 hop away, the address is 2 hop away, 3 hop away, but the prerequisite, that address must be pingable, must be reachable. If that is not reachable, not pingable, you cannot form the BGP relationship. So right now we are doing with the this physical, so this is directly connected. So I'm on the R1, I'm trying to ping the R2 router IP address, and let me see whether I'm able to ping or not. So see, it is trying to ping. The first packet has been dropped because of the ARP resolution, and last 4 packet has been successful. So out of 5 packet, when I do the first time ping, the first packet was dropped because of ARP resolution. But now we can see we are having the ping successful, and 100% reply we are getting from the R2. So R1 able to reach the R2, and if you do the similar kind of test from the R2 to R1, it is going to reach as well. So now we can form the BGP relationship. So how the BGP relationship is going to be happen? What is the first criteria is going to be applied? So the first criteria, as we discussed, we have the some concept is the autonomous system. So every router, if you want to configure the BGP, this is two type of the BGP, as we know that eBGP or iBGP. So in eBGP, the router have AS number, and that AS number is going to be unique for your organization. Okay, and you must have to make the BGP relation with another organization, then you have to use the another AS number. So basically 2 different AS is going to be required, then your relation is going to form as the eBGP. Let's suppose my AS number is 100 here, and here is 200. So this is the eBGP relationship. But let's say suppose these 2 routers belong to my organization. So my AS number is going to be same. So if this is the 2 organization are, means 2 router belong to the same organization, so the AS number is going to be 100 and 100. So this is going to become the iBGP. Okay, which is not internal BGP, external BGP. So right now we are trying to make the eBGP, because we are just going to take the AS number of this router as 100 and AS number of this router as 200. Very small labs. So let's see how it is going to be configured. So first thing, when you go and do the BGP relationship configuration, we know that AS number, let me, okay, I can just put in this way, AS number 100 and I can just put it here, and I can just duplicate it, and I can put it here. This is two. Let me try in different way. So this is my 200. Okay, so this is my 200 ASN, or I can put it here in better understanding. All right, so what is the first step? I'll go in the R1 again, and I want to make the BGP relations. If I'm going to run the command show IP protocol summary, so you're not going to find any BGP configuration is there. Just connected is starting in the application. Their default protocol is running on this router, but there's no OSPF, there's no RIP, there is no EIGRP, there is no BGP. These routing tables are not available because we not configured anything as a routing. So how I can go and configure this? So basically I can go in the config T, and to start doing the BGP configuration, first syntax you have to use router BGP. This is the way of doing the BGP configuration. The first command you have to do this router BGP, and after doing that you just have to put the autonomous system number. Means whatever the autonomous system for this R1 router, you just have to give them. So in our topology scenario, you can see we have given the autonomous system is 100 because we want to form the eBGP relationship. So in that case, I'm going to use the 100. Now I want to form the neighborship between these two devices. The how neighborship is going to configure. So you have to use the command as a neighbor. And after putting the neighbor, you just put the question mark. You have three things. You have the neighbor IP address, you have the neighbor IPv6 address, and if you have any tags for the neighbor, that is also going to work. But tag is not going to be configured here, that is not recommended. You can configure IPv4. So then in that case you have to use the first one. If you have the IPv6 configuration for the neighbor address, then you can configure the third one. So in my scenario, I'm going to use IPv4. So what is my neighbor IP address? And that address must be pingable. So my neighbor IP address in this topology is 12.0.0.2. So I'll go here and I'll just configure 12.0.0.2. And then the next option, we have a lot of commands are here, right? So which commands shall I configure? You can see there are a lot of commands. So you don't have to configure these all commands in while doing the basic BGP configuration, because these all command having a different use cases. And as a BGP expert, you should know each and every command meaning, right? So BGP is the huge, right? And it's having the very like wider concept. So definitely we'll try to understand each and every command step by step in the future, all the configuration. But for time being, we are going to use one command, that is the remote AS. Means what is the remote AS? Specify a BGP neighbor remote AS. So what is my remote AS? Means my local AS is 100, so remote AS is 200. So I just have to put the remote AS here, remote AS as a 200. So this is my first line configuration, and this configuration is done. You can just do it right. So the simple configuration I made, very straightforward one liner configuration. Let me show you. If you want to see the configuration, if you run the command show IP protocol summary again, so now you can see you have the BGP configuration, and this BGP AS number is 100. Earlier it was not there, but right now it is available. So now it's time to make the BGP configuration R2. But before I can go on the R2, I just go and check this particular command. So run section BGP. You can see this is two-liner configuration I made only, just two-liner configuration. So is it enough to form the BGP? I say yes. This is the very basic command it is going to require to form the BGP. But this command come automatically. I didn't configure neighbor log changes. So this is the Cisco iOS feature. You don't have to configure. It is going to automatically give this command in the BGP configuration. Why? Because it is going to generate the logs when your any neighbor is going to be any neighborship is going to be down. So log is going to be captured, and that is going to be available in syslog or your log summary of this particular router. So we just make the two-liner configuration, and that BGP configuration is done. Similarly, we just have to go in the R2, and if you just run the command, if you want to check my BGP configuration is up and down, so there is a very basic command. Let me write it here. So if you run here the command show IP BGP summary, so you can see this BGP summary, you can see here, this BGP, it is showing that my BGP identifier, that means my on BGP ID, right? Or it could be router ID as well. But there is no router ID. That's why it is taking the identifier as the self IP address, which is configured as a neighbor. And what is my local AS number? That is my local AS number is 100. So I'm on this particular, so I'm seeing this local AS number, and you can see BGP table version is 1. So this is the first version of the BGP table because we first time configured, and routing table version also 1 because it's not updated till now any kind of the routing as well. Now you're seeing the BGP neighbor, which is my BGP neighbor. So that's a 12.0.0.2, which is particularly this IP address. Okay. And what else we are saying? So version of the BGP, the version of the BGP is 4. This is the V4. So even in the message of the message for the BGP message, always go for the BGP version as well. And it is going to mismatch, then a neighborship is not going to work. So you can see the BGP version as well. So this is the version of the BGP. What next? If you check the next, we have the next parameter is the AS number. This is the remote AS number, and how many message we received, BGP message 0, and how many message we sent 0, means there is no communication had to happen at all, right? Table version, that is 1. In queue and out queue means how many packets in and out has been sent, that is neighbor 0. And up and down, it was neighbor up and neighbor down, that's why it's neighbor. And a state and prefix idle. So what does means idle? So this is, you can just consider the down because we just understand the different state of the BGP. So you can see the differences between the active, idle, open send, right? So we have a lot of states. I hope you guys are able to remember. If not, definitely we can recap later stage, but not this is right time. So right now it's in the idle state. It is trying to make the connectivity, but somehow it is not happening. So that's why it's stuck in the idle, and after some time it is going to stuck in the active as well. If it is trying multiple time and it is not going to happen, then active state as well. Because we configure the BGP in one side, but we still not configure the BGP in another side. So how can I do that? I'll go in the R2 again, and I have to configure the BGP. So this is the same thing. I'll go in the configuration, and the syntax of the BGP configuration is the router BGP. And again, what is my AS number? This time my AS number is 200 because on this router we define the AS number is 200. So I'm just configuring the AS number is 200, and again I'll put the neighbor address. You can see this is the address. So 12.0.0.1, and remote AS. What is my remote AS? This is remote AS is 100. So I'm just going to do that. Remote AS 100, and then done. And you can see after doing this configuration, there is a log as well. So in this log, you can see my BGP has been configured, and this is showing up. And similar log probably you are going to find it in the other section. You can see this is the showing the up, means I just make the little bit configuration, just 2-line configuration, and after doing this 2-line configuration, my BGP session has been established. My relation of the BGP has been established. So let me go in the R1, and I'll show again the command show IP BGP summary. Show IP BGP. This is show IP BGP summary. So you can see now, you can see you have the 4 message received, 4 message sent, BGP version like 4, table version 1, in queue output still 0. But you can see up and down it's showing it's up. How you identify it's up? Because this state prefix is 0. There is no active, open sent, like there is no state information is available here, right? So that's why this is showing is the prefix as a 0, right? So I hope you guys understand, and you very much clear about that. So we know this is not in idle, this is not in connect, this is not active, this is not open send, open confirm and establish. So that means 0 means it has been established but not active, not the idle. So only 2 problem is going to happen. If the state is going to be stay in the active or idle, then there is a problem. If other state are there, then that means everything is good here. So now we have the BGP relationship. And if I run the same command here, let me try. So if I go here, show IP BGP summary, so you can see. Now the question is how basically this two router is going to communicate with the loopback address. How these two router is going to communicate with this loopback address. But if you check, there is no loopback configured in these two router. There is no loopback, so definitely they are not going to communicate. Okay, but we just have to use the BGP concept, and by using the BGP concept, we have to make sure these are going to be communicated. So first I will create the loopback address, and I'll just go in the interface loopback 1, and I'll define the IP address 1.1.1. This is the virtual IP address, so it is always going to be up and simple. So I just make this, so this is up. So you can see this is the one IP address. I'll go in the R2 as well. After going in the R2, I'll just go in the configuration T, interface loopback true, and I'll just define the IP address 2.2.2.2 and 255, 255, 255, 255, and that's all. So if I just check show IP interface brief, you can see this has been done as well. So now these two loopback has been configured, but am I able to reach these two loopback currently? So if I check the show IP route, there is no route available in my routing table for the two loopback address which is configured on the R2. So if there is no route in my routing table, there is no possibility I can reach. Similarly, if the packet is going to form in the R2 for the R1, so the R1 destination must be loopback available on this routing table, but this is not available, so I cannot do any kind of ping pong. So if you just try to ping 1.1.1, this is not pinging. If you're going to try to ping 2.2.2 here, it is not, because they are not in the routing table. So how I can get them advertised from the both of the site? By leveraging the BGP concept, and they are going to reach each other. Okay, this is the second lab in this BGP. So the first lab we have done how to make the BGP relationship, what are the parameters available in the BGP, and the second lab how we can advertise the networks that is a loopback directly connected on this particular routers, and they are going to make the communication. So the one thing how we can do the advertisement in the BGP. So any network you want to advertise in the BGP, very important and basic concept guys, you have to make it note. If you want to advertise any of the network in the BGP, that network must be available in the routing table. Okay, let me write any network you want to advertise in BGP, that must be available in routing table via any IGP. And what are the IGP? That could be your connected route, also going to known as the IGP. Just I'm giving the example. Connected route, this could be your static route, this could be your RIP, EIGRP, OSPF, or ISIS. So these are the route, means any interior gateway protocol route that must be this. These are the not interior gateway protocols, right? The static and the connected, but yes, you just think about the route must be available in the routing table. So I want to advertise my loopback address 1.1. So is it available in my routing table? If this route is not available in my routing table via any IGP connected to static, I cannot advertise them. Simple definition. So this is the prerequisite. So if I see this route, so you can see this route is available in my routing table via directly connected. So that means this route is eligible to advertise in the BGP. Similarly, if I go in the R2 as well, and I just want to advertise the R2 via the BGP. You can see this route is also available in the BGP routing, means the routing table of the router, not BGP routing table. So this can be also advertised. So if I go here and I just check the show IP BGP summary command, show IP BGP summary, you can see right now I'm not learning any prefixes. I'm not advertising any prefixes. So if you want to see whether I'm advertising any prefix from to this neighbor, so how can I check that? So there is a command, you can just write it down, show IP BGP neighbor, and whatever might we have the multiple neighbor. I want to check, do I am advertising any route, and so you just have to use the neighbor address, and there is a command advertise route. So you can see there is a total number prefix 0. So I'm 0 receiving and 0 advertising. Similar in the R1 also, if you go here, show IP BGP summary, right now you are receiving 0 prefix, and if I want to check am I advertising any route to R1 to R2, so show IP BGP neighbor, and this is my neighbor, and I'll just put the advertised route. See, there is a 0 route as well. So technically I'm not advertising any route either of side. So how can I advertise? So let me go on the R1. The first condition of the advertising route, the route is going to be advertised only if available in my routing table. So right now want to advertise 1.1, which is available by the connected route. So what are the various way to advertise the route in the BGP? Okay, the next question is, let me write here, what are the various way advertise the route into BGP? Okay, so that we have to understand. So there is 3 way we can advertise: via the network commands. Okay, this is the first way. Second way, we can do the redistribution, and third way, we can via aggregate command. Okay, so there is only 3 way to advertise the route in the BGP, means one neighbor to another neighbor, by using the network command, redistribution, and the aggregate command. So let me show you. So if I go in the BGP, I just have to advertise. So I'll show the all 3 way here. So I'll go in the BGP here, and I'll again go in the router BGP, and what is my AS number is 100. And if I just check, you can see in this one is the redistribute information from another routing protocol. So if you want to redistribute any IGP route in the BGP, that you can do that. Even if I want to advertise the 1.1 via the redistribution command, because the connected route, I can do that. Another way, you can just do via the network command. I specify the network address to announce via the BGP. And third way, aggregated address. That is again to just summary address. If you want to summarize the network, then you can use. So this is just going to summarize address configuration. This is just for the redistribution, but this is the less recommended. Network is the most recommended, and aggregated for the summary address. But if you want to do the redistribute, that also going to work, but this is not recommended. So better you just use the network command. This is the most recommended. So let me go and advertise the route in the BGP. So I'll go and I have to use the network. Which network I want to advertise? That network is 1.1./30. So this is my network that was configured on my loopback address. So let me show you, is it correct or not? So simply go here, and if I just to do show run interface loopback 1, see, this is my network /32 one IP address, single host. So I'll use network, and what is network? 1.1.1. If there is a really network based on like /24 /27 /28, then you have to make sure you have to advertise the valid network ID. If not the valid network ID, then it is going to give the error or might be not going to advertise. So in this case, my network is single host, so I have to use, and then I have to put question mark, and there is option you have to put the mask of the network. I'll explain what is a root MAC and backdoor later stage, but you have to use the mask, and then after mask you have to put the network mask. So you can say 255 255. Once done, my configuration is done, you can just do right. So I have done the network advertisement of the BGP, particular this one prefix. So if I go show run section BGP, so see this configuration is done. Now if I am just checking show IP BGP summary, see still I am receiving 0 prefix. But now let's see, am I advertising any prefix from my on router to router 2? So what is the command? Show IP BGP neighbor to check that, and neighbor is my 12.0.0.2, and I'll use the command as advertise route. And this time we'll see this is the route I'm advertising now. So now I am advertising the route, and let's understand a little bit what I'm getting here. So you can see if I run this command show IP BGP neighbor advertise route, so what information I am getting. So status code, you can read it here. S small s is a suppressed route, D is equal to damped route, H is equal to history, asterisk is the valid, you can see, and star greater than is the best. So this route is a valid route and also the best route, because these two symbol are coming together. And what is the next hop? Next hop is 0.0, means I am the self originating this route. Myself is advertising this route, nobody else is advertising to me. So I'm not learning from anywhere. I am the owner of this route, and I'm trying to advertise this route in the networks. That's why the next hop is the 0.0.0. Metric, local preference, you don't know. Weight, you don't know. Path, you don't know, right? So later we'll discuss about these all fundamental, and there the origin code, you can see IE, incomplete, this all, and there's a reef failure, stale configuration, multipath. So there are a lot of things which you have to understand step by step, but for time being, you can see this is my valid route and the best route. Total number of prefix, I am advertising 1, and I am the originating this route. So this route is getting advertised from R1 toward the R2. So if I am advertising, so this router must be also receiving this route. Okay, so let's validate on the R2 whether I am receiving or not. So I'll go in the R2, and if I'm going in the R2, let me just check. I'll run the command again, show IP BGP summary. See, here I am getting one route, but here I'm not getting any route because R2 is not advertising. That's why it's 0. You can see here is still 0, but R2 is getting route. Which route it is getting? So you just run the command show IP BGP neighbor, and this is my neighbor from R1, and you just check the receive routes. Okay, you can check the receive routes. So there is one more command is going to require to just enable this command. So better check the routes. So you are going to get this route, you are receiving this route. Okay, so the prefix you are getting from the neighbor, that is the one prefix, and this is the prefix. And if you want to check show IP route, this prefix is going to be available in the routing table as well. See, so you are correctly advertising this route, and this is running from the B is equal to BGP. See, B code here, you can just focus here. This is something written here, B is equal to BGP. So this route is coming from the BGP. C is connected, L for the local host route. So if you want to learn something, meaning of the code, you can learn from here as well. Different codes are available, IES, right? And L is equal to local, C is equal to connected, S is equal to static. So right now I'm getting the one of the route, that is a BGP route in the routing table. If you want to check the BGP table, so what is the command? Show IP BGP, and this is also going to show you one BGP route is coming. But if you check the R1 show IP BGP, there would be no any route, because we are not receiving any route from the remote end. The self route is showing, that is the next hop is self, but remote side we are not receiving. Here you can see next hop is something different. You are learning this route from the R1. So now I have to advertise again, but still if I am trying to ping, if I is trying to ping R1 here, so it is going to ping, definitely it is pinging. But if I try to ping with the source loopback 2, that it is not going to ping, because the reverse path is not available. Directly connected source, when it is going, it is able to ping, because the directly subnet is also configured here. So the reverse and forward packet is getting completed. Okay, but when I taking the source as a loopback 2.2, this reverse route is not available on the R1. You can see show IP route, there is no reverse route available. So that's why it is not able to ping. So how can I make them reachable? So again, I have to advertise even from the R2. So I just have to, you just want to go so run section BGP. You can go in the BGP configuration. And if you go in the configuration, router BGP, this time AS number is 200, and simply I'll go in the network 2.2.2.2, mask is 255, 255, 255, 255. That's done. So your BGP configuration also done. So now once I done this configuration, okay, and let me show run section BGP. If you see this configuration here, this configuration has been done. And if you just want to check show IP BGP neighbor, what is my neighbor? This is my neighbor, and I want to check the advertised route. This time we'll see 2.2 is getting advertised, and who is advertising? Myself. This route must be start getting here. Right now see there's no route available in this routing table, but again I run this command, see this route start coming in my routing table. So now I am start getting the 2.2 route also in the routing table. So my job has been done. So if you're a beginner, do this first lap, first time, okay, and check this all routing table. And if you run this command show IP BGP, you can see this BGP route. Two routes are coming. So one route is not coming, it's self-originated route, because next stop is myself. One route is coming, that is coming from the 2 router, because this is the IP address belong to router 2, okay. And there are some other parameter also which I'll explain in the later stage what are the attribute on these routers. Now earlier when I tried to ping these two, it was not working by doing this ping command, but now I have the forward and reverse routing. If I'm trying to ping, see it is pinging now. Similarly, if you just go and try to ping 2.2, it is going to ping, but if you even you're going to take a source 1.1.1, it is going to ping. So both way it is going to ping. So now my first lab has been done. In this lab we understand how to make the BGP relationship, and then we understand how basically we can advertise the network in the BGP table, and what are the way of the advertising this network. There's network command, redistribution, and the aggregated address. So in this lab we understand via the network command. Later just understand about the redistribute and the aggregated as well, okay. In second lab we discuss, I'm not going to build this BGP relationship between these two loop back, these directly connected. I will have to make the connectivity between these two loop back address by the BGP. Means again there is the eBGP, but in this section this eBGP must be formed with the help of the loopback. Then we have to do some additional configuration that we'll discuss in the next lecture. Thanks guys for watching. Have a great day.